So before we get into this edition of Which is Better, I do just want to say that I know I waited a little while to get this review out there. I've had this wave of figures with the new Ka-Zar and the Build-A-Figure Zabu for like a month and a half now. And while I have been meaning to kind of go through a lot of the figures and do stuff, time got away from me a little bit, but I also kind of wanted to let the dust settle. Because sometimes when a new wave comes out, prices of old stuff drop pretty hard, or the price of the new thing skyrockets right away. So I was kind of hoping for things to level out. Now that we are in July of 2024 and the new Zabu Build-A-Figure wave has been out for a little bit, prices are starting to level out a little bit. So that's part of the reason why I waited. But the first round on Which is Better is always about the paint and overall appearance of the figures. And we're going to start by looking at the Ka-Zar figures. So this Ka-Zar was released in 2008. He was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive along with this Zabu, and there was another figure in this set which we will be talking about. And this Ka-Zar, like, for what they were putting out at the time, 2008-wise, it looked pretty good. It has some really cool hand wraps. It has some nicely detailed, like, loincloth details. You can kind of see the tattered fabric there on him, as well as the ruffles in the overall design. Looking at the back of the figure, you know, that carries on to the back. There's a sculpted knife there. It does not come out. On the legs, there are two holsters for knives. This one does not come out, but this one, there is a removable knife, which I can't seem to find at the moment. And, you know, there are some wraps along with the holsters here. You have fully sculpted feet. And the head sculpt, I want to say, was pretty unique. You know, it's 2008. It was a long time ago. I don't remember if anybody else had this head sculpt, if it was a fully unique head sculpt. It does look pretty neat. The hair is a little wafty. The only downside with it is that it allows for some rotation, but you can't really get past that point or that point. Not that you'd want him looking behind him, but, you know, there is that to think about. So that is the 2008 Ka-Zar figure. The new Ka-Zar figure, I'm going to remove his spear for a little bit here. The new Ka-Zar figure is sculpted very nicely. I know I saw a couple complaints online about this figure and the head, and saying that the Icarus figure has a very similar head, as well as, was it K-Wall has a different head. Maybe someone else in the wave, I forget who now, has a very similar head. The head looks pretty cool. Like, I don't dislike it. It is sculpted very nicely, and it doesn't really impede movement. He can look around without really any blockage here. The loincloth, looking at it, it is looks like it's a fur loincloth tied with some rope here. It is tattered a little bit up here. That looks nice. That is the same on both ends. And there is a knife hidden back here, which does come out. So that is one accessory that you have the option to use. Going down, looking at the hands, there are no wrist wraps, and the only thing I don't like about that is there is the seam line for, you know, something to be on the wrist. So that looks a little ugly, but it's not the worst thing. Like, if you're kind of far away, well, you're seeing it on camera now, but it's not quite as noticeable if you're giving the figure a quick glance over. But moving down to the feet, I do like that it has fur boots, you know, on the figure. I think that is very cool. Both of these Ka-Zars, in my opinion, are missing some things. I feel like there could be like a bone necklace and, you know, better wrist wraps on these figures. But that is just, you know, my own personal way that I like to see Ka-Zar. My mind always kind of echoes back to the original X-Men animated series and how Ka-Zar looked in that. I don't think either of these look bad, though. This one looks a little more ready to fight, the new one, I feel like, than this one with, you know, with the bare feet. This one almost is like very Tarzan-esque, where this one still has a bit of a Tarzan influence, but there's more like the fur boots there. So anyway, looking at the two Zabus now, this Zabu was not a Build-A-Figure, and I believe it was a reuse from another line Hasbro had at the time, but you know, like, it has really cool teeth. It has a mouth that opens. It's got teeth. There's nicely a detailed mouth, but it's very smooth. Like, you know, like there are portions of the body where there are angles, but otherwise it's very smooth. You know it's a cat, a saber-toothed tiger, but it doesn't have that texture of like an actual tiger. I keep saying it's smooth, and that's exactly what it is. The claws look good, like nothing on it looks bad, but you know, even the bottoms of the feet, like you have the painted paw prints, nothing on this figure, nothing on it looks bad. Like I've had it sitting on my shelf since 2008, and it looks fine, but it's looking at or compared to the new one, which has all this sculpted fur detail. This has more of that saber-toothed cat-like appearance. You know, there is fur. There are still the painted paw pads, which I just mentioned, but there's like sculpted fur all over this thing. None of it is smooth. The eyes aren't quite as big as the old one, but I feel like this maybe would be a little more realistic. The mouth does open and close, and there is nicely sculpted mouth details as well. The saber-tooth teeth look fantastic, and it really does look very nice. It looks like a very believable, modern, sculpted, modern toy saber-tooth tiger. So round one is going to our 2024 Ka-Zar and Build-A-Figure Zabu. Round two is about the articulation of these characters, and we're going to look at the 2008 Ka-Zar first. Now, look, Marvel Legends was kind of on the forefront of modern action figure articulation, so you know what you're getting. You can tell just from looking at this figure. There are a few things I do want to point out, though, namely the main body. Now, this body was used for a Drax figure. Agent Venom is essentially on this body with added armor bits, but when the body is straight like this, so, you know, the whole, like, chest piece is straight, the character is looking down, and there's no head tilt here. There's a little bit, but not a lot, to make him look like he's looking up. He always kind of looks like he's looking down. If you want him to look forward, you're going to be either clicking the waist like this, or the chest piece like this, so then he's kind of like in a, like you just got hit, or like a come at me bro type situation. Or you're going to be arcing the legs back, so he's standing at like an angle. And it always looks a little unnatural to me. I've always kind of just had Ka-Zar looking down, which isn't my favorite thing. Of course, you know, all the other bits of articulation that you see, you come to expect, you probably know. One thing to say, the wrist wraps is where the articulation is at the wrist. So there's no pivot on the wrist. So it's basically half the lower arm here rotates if you want that articulation bit. He also has these ball joint hips, so you can't just move them up or down. You kind of got to swing them all around. And of course, these were never fun to pose. I hated these ball joint hips. Down to the feet, there is boot cut, which is neat, but a little bit of ankle pivot, just a little bit, not a whole lot. So there was that. You know, looking at the new Ka-Zar figure, he has all that articulation that the other one has and more. I mentioned already about the glove cut, but there are fully rotatable wrists, and there is pivot on them. For some hands, you can go up or down with them, which I think is neat. Other hands are going to go in and out, so there is that. It depends what hands you're going in or putting in. The hair, I mentioned how on this one the hair kind of gets in the way. Nothing inhibited by the hair here. And he has the butterfly joints. They're a little tight on mine. I can't quite get them to articulate maybe as much as I would like, but they are present. They do exist. Mine are a little clicky. I hope I didn't break anything. But and then going down to the feet, you know, not ball jointed hips. They come out. They come forward and back. They come out without any kind of weird twisting motion to them. Which means they also have nicely rotation at the calf, nice rotation at the calf. Everything is pinless on this one, which, as I said, it doesn't necessarily make things better, but it does look good. And then there is boot cut, but some really good ankle pivot here. Like, really nice ankle pivot, as well as, you know, the ability to go forward and back. So, really, if we're looking at this, it's really just a case of modern action figure technology. This new Ka-Zar really benefits from what the Hasbro team was doing in 2008. Like, this wasn't bad at the time. It just now is being beaten by a better figure. This is definitely the better articulated figure. We are going to look at the two Zabus as well, though, before I give my final verdict. We'll start with the 2008 Zabu, and the head just kind of rotates on this one. There's not really any up or down. There's like a little bit, but I think that's just because it's old and it feels like it's going to fall off the joint. This piece here, this collar piece, feels like it should move up or down, but I can't really get it to. I don't know if it's stuck, if it never moved. The mouth opens, which is nice. That's a nice feature. The legs on this one, they go forward and back, but there's no real in or out movement on them. So like up here, there's nothing that's going to let them go in or out, but they do bend here at the joint. So on all four legs, they bend like that. The paw also bends in and out, and the paw does rotate, as well as this joint rotates too. So there is some rotation on the hind legs. Going back to the back of the body, we do have a little bit of up or down here, but it doesn't really seem to make much of a difference. So that, you know, there's that. The back legs do articulate out, so you can spread the rear legs out a little bit, and then they do move forward and back. The articulation here again, forward and back. Same with the paws, and everything does rotate. So he's a pretty well articulated saber-toothed tiger, even for something that came out in 2008. The new one, the Build-A-Figure, the head does it is able to go down and up. So there is that. It can twist. So, you know, you can move that. This piece here does move down, so you can have him really low to the ground, like he's sniffing the scent of something, or you can have it all the way up, so he's looking more up. Mouth does open as well. In terms of the body, this joint here, it does move, it rotates, and you can get some really good bend in there. So you can really have this being very expressive, very emotive. In terms of the tail moves. It didn't on the other one. I'll hold that up so you can see a little better. Not that I think the tail is the most important thing to move, but it's there. All of these legs do move in and out because they are on a ball joint. So all of them kind of move, you know, like that. They all move forward and back. Same on both of the back legs, you know, in and out, up and down. And, you know, they look pretty good. They have bend here at the joint, like that. And just like our 2008 one, it rotates. So there's a lot of movement there. The paws move forward and back and will also swivel. And that goes for the same on the back legs. The one joint here, you can click it anywhere you want. You can rotate it, same with the back legs. And actually there is an additional point of articulation on the back legs because you have this joint here where my thumb is. It doesn't rotate, but it does let you go in for some more, like, you know, bends. And then the paw will go forward and back and you can rotate the paw. So it is pretty cool. And really, the new one is beating the old one out by just a little bit. There's just a little bit of extra articulation that makes it better. It moves a little nicer, and it can hold a pose better, I think, than the 2008 one. So the winner of the articulation round is the new Ka-Zar and new Zabu Build-A-Figure. Ah, yes, round 3 is always one of my favorite rounds. It is the accessory round. And I have to be honest with you, I feel a little bad. I've failed you a little bit, my loyal viewers. I couldn't find all of the accessories for this set in my parts bin. I've gotten used to kind of organizing things by year of release. I've only been doing that for a couple years now. Otherwise, everything pre like 2021 is just in a bin that I always constantly have to organize and find things, and it's kind of a pain. But Ka-Zar and Zabu did come with another figure because they were a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive set. That third figure was a Shauna the She-Devil, and here she is. We do not have a modern update of her, so I can't compare her to anything else. So I'm really just going to treat her as an accessory for the rest of this review, and this is not me trying to be mean or degrading towards women. It's just what I'm talking about for this review. Now, these figures did come with some actual weapons. I'll put them up on screen now. There were 2 knives and a shotgun that came with these figures. So they're neat accessories. It's nice that you get a knife for this holster here. It's nice that both of them can have another knife. And if you want one of them to have a shotgun, you can have it too. I believe the shotgun was a callback to the Frank Cho Shauna the She-Devil series that came out around that time, maybe a little before. I forget what year those minis came out. But that is the accessories for our 2008 Ka-Zar and Zabu. Now, my new Ka-Zar and Zabu comes with a lot of different accessories. First off, Zabu doesn't have any. What are you going to give a saber-toothed tiger? If it was the 90s, they probably gave him a missile launcher, because that was what sometimes happened in the 90s. But in terms of accessories for Ka-Zar, I already pointed out he does have this knife, which is removable. So you do have this cool hidden knife that you can just keep on the figure. He also comes with this spear, and he can hold on to the spear. Even though this is a hand that appears to have a trigger finger, it does hold the spear nicely. And I have this hand on at the moment to kind of help keep that spear in place. It looks good as a hunting spear, something that Ka-Zar would probably be using. He also has some additional hands, and there are 6 hands in total that this figure comes with. You see, of course, the gripping hand and the open hand now. There is another fully open left hand. There is a left fist. There is a trigger finger hand for the right hand. And there is a right fist. So, you can mix and match to your heart's content. If I wanted him both holding the spear and the gun, I would definitely have both of these trigger hands on, which are really just gripping hands in this case. He doesn't have anything that he needs a trigger hand for. If I ever find that old shotgun, maybe I'll use one of these trigger hands for something. But it doesn't look bad. I don't love that Hasbro uses trigger hands as just regular gripping hands. I think they really need to get a mold going that is just a hand that can grip something and tightly, and it doesn't have a trigger finger going on it. But with all that said, because I'm not really counting Shauna as an accessory, I think the new Ka-Zar and Zabu have better accessories. I think the spear and the knife are better than the somewhat comically oversized knife that Shauna and Ka-Zar came with in the San Diego exclusive pack back in 2008. So this one wins our 3rd round as well. That brings us to our 4th round, which is all about the price and availability of these figures. Now, the 2008 set, we are living in 2024. I'm recording this video in 2024. So this 2008 set isn't something that's going to be easy to come by. In fact, in 2008, it was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, which was always kind of hard to get to. It was really, you had to kind of know somebody, and I was lucky enough that I knew someone going to San Diego that year who was able to pick this set up for me. This was not an easy one to get to, and up until a couple months ago, the price on this was super high. I want to say back in December, you were looking at almost $400 for this set. Since the announcement and release of the new Ka-Zar and Zabu, the San Diego Comic-Con set has gone down, but the average price is still about $260. That is on the secondary market on sites like eBay and things like that. I pull my information from Action Figure 411, and that is what is telling me is the current price of this set. Now, the new Ka-Zar and Zabu Build-A-Figure is going to cost you considerably less. If you just want to buy Ka-Zar, he's $25. If you're looking at just buying Zabu, it's about $135. So you pair that together, and you're spending about $160. However, if you buy the entire wave, if you want to get all the figures in this wave and leave out the one that doesn't have a Build-A-Figure, so it's a 7-figure wave, 6 of them have pieces. If you want to get all 6 figures, Ka-Zar being one of them, you're going to spend $150. This is provided that you can find all the figures at the moment. I want to say most are easy to come by, with the exception of the Cable in this wave. I think he's starting to creep up in price, but I know people have found these in Targets. I know they are indeed in stores. You can probably find them like GameStop and things like that. So they are available as of this recording in July of 2024. Because of all these factors, my new Ka-Zar and Zabu Build-A-Figure are going to take the gold home for round 4 as well, leaving us with one final round to talk about. And we're bringing everybody in here for the last and final round, which is my display compatibility round. Look, I have been collecting Marvel Legends since they came out in the Toy Biz days in the early 2000s. My collection is continually changing, being added to, taking away certain characters, upgrading certain characters. So in my personal display, I like to have a very upgraded, very modern version of characters. It is a little infuriating to have to buy characters over and over again, but it's something that I have just have to live with. Looking at my new Ka-Zar, he looks like a modern articulated, modern sculpted Marvel Legends figure. This is going to fit in with just about anyone else on my shelf. It does look very good, as does Zabu. You know, this looks very neat. My old one, 2008, you know, he served me for a long time and he served me well, but he's got, you know, very noticeable ball-jointed elbows. He's got these ball-jointed hips that I have already said I can't stand. He is a product of his time. He was great when he came out, but here we are all these years later, and he just doesn't look as good. Neither does the Zabu. Like I say, he looks very smooth. There's not a lot of full fur sculpting on that figure. I do have Shauna in the middle because I don't know if Hasbro is ever going to be able to give us another Shauna the She-Devil figure. Let's be honest, it's a woman in a bikini, and there's not a lot into that bikini, to be honest. So I don't know if they would ever consider doing another Shauna. She does look good with both pairs of figures, though, or both sets of figures. You know, she looks pretty well. It looks pretty good with the San Diego exclusive set, considering she came from it. But if you wanted to pair her with this new Ka-Zar and Zabu, she still looks pretty good. The sculpting on that figure is really nice, even if the articulation isn't really up to date. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of shelf do you want? You know, there are some Marvel Legends collectors who kind of stop at a certain era and they just want everything up to a certain year. If your aesthetic is more like you know, Hasbro really kicking it off with the return of Marvel Legends and stuff like that, this Ka-Zar is going to be for you. If you are looking for a modern representation, probably a less expensive representation, this version is probably going to be for you. So for me, I'm going with this Ka-Zar as my display compatibility winner. So he actually wins round 5 and every round on this edition of Which Is Better. So perhaps mauling or spearing the competition, the new Ka-Zar and Zabu figure wins out on this edition of Which Is Better. I mean, look, it's been a long time since we've seen Ka-Zar and Zabu in the Marvel Legends line, and it is really just, there have been a lot of advances made to the way these figures are made and the way they look. Eventually, we had to get new ones that were most likely going to be a better option. But this is just my opinion. I would love to hear your opinion of these figures in the comments below. Do you want to track down the 2008 San Diego exclusive? Are you a completist? Do you like it better? Do you think the new one's the better one? Let me know. And until next time, I've been Dan. You've been pretty awesome, and I'll see you around.
Well, there we go. What did you think of this video? Sound off in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Remember, we are making a push to get to 700 subscribers here on the channel. If we do that before the HasLab Giant Man arrives, I will be giving away the old Toy Biz Giant Man Build-A-Figure that you've seen on my shelf and things like that. So hit subscribe, leave a comment, hit like if you're so inclined, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.